Right, Elmer's travels again. You might be able to hear the traffic in the distance. The unfortunate thing about Sussex, certainly where I am, East Sussex, you're never very far away from a very fast, noisy road, which is such a shame, because there's a lot of woodland in Sussex. I've got a feeling actually this is one of the most wooded counties in England. Subsequently, you know, it's got some beautiful places, but as I say, you're never very far away from the sound of traffic. And I'm walking near a place called Maresfield, near Uckfield. There's some very nice lakes here. If you give you a quick, you might not see it very well on the camera, but I'll give it a shot anyway. So here's one. The interesting thing is apparently at one time this was just not private property. I'm walking on the path and you're given strict instructions only to walk on the path because it's all private land. But at one time it wasn't. And this is another story of Sussex, I think. Lots of the land is owned by great estate families. Down here we got Glyndebourne, which is the famous opera place, and that's an estate, and then next to that is Glynd, which again is another estate owned by a family that goes back goodness knows how long. And then there's Firle, which is a lovely village. Again, that's owned by the Firle estate. So there's a lot of renting down here, and you can imagine the rents are just ridiculous amounts of money. Unsustainable, really, for people who would be doing the type of thing that people in a village would have done in the past: carpentry, you know, manual work, etc., farm work. Interesting. Local postman. So I'm just going to turn up here because there's a nice little woodland track, but it doesn't go too far before he hits the main road again. Lots of stuff here. Stitchwort, primroses, obviously the bluebells are still out. Yeah, so what I wanted to talk about today was something that I occasionally have to use, and that's a map. It's quite an interesting concept, really, a map. For those of you who are familiar with the old Ordnance Survey maps, or just even, you know, a map that you would have used before the days of the sat-nav. The interesting thing, of course, is that a map is a representation of the landscape, but it doesn't look like the landscape, you know, because when you're in something like this bit of woodland here, or the, you know, with all the rivers and lake and, you know, bluebell wood, etc. On a map, of course, it doesn't look anything like this. And obviously, with music, we use maps, whether they are, you know, scale patterns or chords, shapes, or whatever. They are, in essence, a map. But of course, the map is not the landscape, which is a classic NLP term which was nicked from somewhere. Can't remember who. A psychologist. His name escapes me at the moment. But that's a very interesting problem that we have, because we often confuse the map with the reality. So, you know, ponder that for a moment. You know, in other words, music it isn't a scale, obviously. but people often play as if it is. So then it poses the question about, well, what is the reality of something like music? And that leads us to another interesting confusion, which is similar to this concept of maps. And then you often hear that music is mathematical. Well, that's actually not true. Music is a language, it's linguistic. It can be explained mathematically, but that doesn't make it mathematical. Just in the same way as you could say that language is mathematical in that way, because it is, in that sense. But of course, language isn't mathematical in its essence. It taps into something else. So the mathematics of it is where the map comes in, because again, if you think about maps, they are mathematical in that they're measurable. And same with music. I don't know if the camera will pick this up, but here's the bluebells. So close up, I don't know if you get a sense of the colour. It's quite lovely. Well, very lovely actually. So I think this is an important thing that we have to, particularly when you're a young player, particularly a teenage player, teenage boy I would say, where the speed and all the rest of it is absolute paramount, and the technique and all the rest of it. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's only, a toolkit, and it's part of the map. But it's not actually the essence of what it is itself. Right, something to get your head around. Obviously a lot of these concepts are the things that I build the practice on, and the concept of what happens when you the sort of things we use with blues camp or in actual the private teaching that I do. Anyway, ponder that, because hopefully you will see, if you get a chance, it might be an idea to find yourself an old map, and well, not an old map, get a map of an area that you know, and then sort of look at how the symbolism works and how it isn't anything like the actual reality. Because obviously it's a shame I haven't got a map. Well, I have got a map of this, but I didn't bring it with me. But if we looked at this, at best it will be just a little light blue blob on an Ordnance Survey map running next to a footpath. So in actual fact, that's what we're looking at when it comes to what music is, and I'm going to be talking about this concept of music as a language as we sort of go through these little videos. So that's today's office. Speak to you soon.